Time to get unbuttoned now with some of our favorite girlfriends. Dr. Lisa Thornton is a pediatrician, Rachel Campos-Duffy is an author and a political pundit, and Heather Kahn is a journalist. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Ready to have some fun?
Yes.
Let's tackle first issue and date night, or Heather, I believe as you call it, save the marriage night. How important is it in a relationship? Let me start with you because you did say you call it save the marriage night.
Not that our marriage is in jeopardy.
Right.
I love him.
Yeah.
But 20 years later, 5 young children later, it is an absolute must in our house. And I think it took me a while to learn that, especially when I was working full-time with my first 3 children. I would feel guilty going out and leaving them. I thought that evening time should be children time. And then I get out of the kitchen, I felt sexier, more interesting, more engaging. We would catch up on what was important to us. And it just, all the troubles and worries kind of melt away. And if you don't take care of the foundation of the family, which is mom and dad, it could crumble.
What about you, Rachel?
I couldn't agree more. And I can tell in my marriage when we don't do it, that things start to happen, like we feel more like business partners, and we don't feel like lovers. And again, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's really good for us as parents to remind ourselves it's good for our kids to model good relationships and to keep that spark alive.
And you schedule it once a week? Do you go every week?
I wish I could. My husband's schedule is very crazy, but we do try. We just got away this weekend for a little bit, and I think it kind of
spices things up a bit.
So.
Well, Dr. Lisa, you say no on the date night. Why is that?
Well, for me, my life is so scheduled already that one more thing is just one more thing. It's like, oh my gosh, so now I've got to plan this date night. No, it's got to be perfect, and we've got to have a happy ending.
So what do you do to connect? No fights on date night.
So, for me, I just enjoy, my kids are a little older. My youngest is 12. So we can be at home alone. So we enjoy just catching up on a couple of our TV shows that are kind of just ours that we watch together. Or we watch a football game, which I don't understand, and my husband explains to me, and it's wonderful and bonding, and that's how we do it. But it's very
that's
casual.
good, too, exactly, as long as you're still bonding.
But it's not a fancy thing. I mean, I live in Wisconsin. I'm going to fish fry, with my husband. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be super planned out, and it can, be like, okay, let's leave early and go home and watch TV or watch a movie.
And you said perfect. I think we need to lower the bar on what's perfect.
Right.
It can be anything.
What about a night of sleeping in, though? Because isn't that...
Sleep is the new sex.
That's what you hear. And in fact, Cal Berkeley found that couples who slept well together tend to have better relationships, tend to communicate better overall, and I think that is
everybody's
key.
And the study,
everybody's rested,
because everybody at home might be surprised, really does refer to sleep,
right?
Shut-eye, not
that kind of sleep, not the other kind of sleep, the active sleep.
I think when we're both well rested, we are more able to take on the world, to deal with a lot of the teenage issues that come up and the toddler issues, because we run the gamut in our house. And I do find that when I get into bed, my eyes tend to close quickly anyway.
But it is good because then everybody can meet the world really feeling good, and you don't get those little snarky things that come when you're a little too tired.
You're irritable.
It's hard though. I've got 6 kids, and
I don't know how you do it.
My husband's gone a lot, and so they sleep in my bed. And so when my husband comes,
6 kids in your bed?
Well, not all of them, but the bottom 3 or 4 will come in and they kick me in the head, and I've been peed on. And
wow.
It's not very romantic.
Your house. What about feeding your personal soul? Because, I mean, so often we are so overtasked, multitasking, and taking care of everybody else's needs. What do you do to kind of give back to yourself, Heather?
Well, and again, I've brought up the word guilt before, and that's my nature. I always want to do for others. And we're not all, because we actually talked about this earlier, that you're really good about not feeling guilty about it. I've had to grow into that role, because what I've realized is I've become a more grown and seasoned woman and mother and wife, is that if I don't do things for myself to nurture my soul, whether it's yoga or a naughty little pleasure of a TV show, or just plunging my hands into the garden with the kids and the dog, something I love, I can't flourish as a person and feel good and relaxed and happy and fulfilled in my soul, and I'm not going to be able to take care. It's like the flight attendant says, put the mask on yourself first, then the kids.
Take care,
We have to give ourselves permission to do that.
All right, we're talking now about women when they step out of the workforce, when they decide to stay home and raise their kids. Are they giving up an opportunity? Is it hard for them to go back to the workforce if they want to get back to those jobs? Now, some of you have dealt with this very issue. Well, Heather, you walked away from. Sorry, I was going to say Heather walked away from a job as a journalist to raise your kids. I feel like I sort of
jumped off a speeding train.
Right.
I had worked so hard navigating through little teeny TV markets and got my dream job in Boston at the TV station that I'd grown up watching. And little did I know, as much as I loved my career, when my third baby was born and I looked at her, I just had like a life-changing moment, an epiphany, and I said, I need to be home. I'm just missing everything. 3 to midnight shifts, working weekends, and I decided to stay home. But I did continue to work part-time so I could hopefully launch myself eventually, and I'm ready now to come back to work.
And Rachel, you say, moms make the best hires, right?
I absolutely think they do. And I think it's important to keep your fingers in the pie if you think that that's something you want to do. But, everything has its trade-offs. And I had a very similar experience where I was pursuing a career in television and just really came to an epiphany where I thought I could live with not having that, amazing career. I didn't, for me personally, think I could live with being 50 and having missed those moments. Now, that's a personal choice, and that's what's so great about the era we live in, where staying home and choosing to work is a choice. But I think you can do a lot of things at once now, thanks to technology.
True.
I've working books, from home. Here, so it's not impossible to be connected.
Lisa is a pediatrician, and what you're doing every day is so important. And like you said, you love it. You have no regrets.
Well, I never stepped back. I've worked full-time my whole life, and I have 3 children. And, I think that for me, it was just who I am. I'm very true to who I am, and I spend time with my kids. It's funny because it feels like people who say you're a stay-at-home mom or you're a working mom, like the working mothers never see their children. And I said to my 20-year-old when he was a little younger, I said, do you wish I had stayed home? And he goes, why? You're around all the time.
Right.
So for my children, they understand that what I do is important for me. It does feed my soul, what I do for a living, and I think it's really important, and I love it. But I think one of the great things is if you have the choice, and many women do not have the choice. They must work.
Absolutely.
And, my mother had to work. My grandmother worked. I'm from a culture of women who worked. So it doesn't seem awkward to me. But I think if you step back and do nothing for 10 years and then try to step back into the workforce, that's very, very difficult. And so I think what we're hearing everybody saying is that if you keep your hands in a little bit so that when it's time for you to move back in, you've got something you can do, that you've got a skill set that you can
Finding ways even to network yourself.
Absolutely.
And
you have
networking
to
is not that hard. Just last week I was at school and I met a dad who had come to a Valentine's Day party at school. He's in the television world, and we were networking while we were serving, conversation hearts. Absolutely. We were having our own conversation.
And it is interesting that there's a cultural component as well.
Yeah.
I mean, in the African American culture and the Latina culture, their highest percentage of at-home moms are Hispanics, and so I think there's a lot of cultural components to it as well.
All right, ladies, good discussion. We'll have to keep this going. Thanks so much, Lisa, Rachel, and Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you.